All right. All right. We are live right now. Thank you so much for joining me, for joining Robert today on We Are End Time Kingdom Ambassadors. And I want to thank you guys. Bless you today. Hope God is truly blessing you. We are waiting for our other guest, Vanessa Moore, to come on. She is missing in action, and hopefully everything is okay with her. But we're going to get started here. Again, thank you for joining me. We have Robert Kollar. I'm assuming that's how you say your name, Robert, right?
I think Kollar.
Kollar.
Yeah.
Okay, Kollar.
But that was close.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
And he has a wonderful testimony as to his life story and what happened with his daughter and now his granddaughter as well. Robert is an actor and also a movie producer, and he's going to be talking a little bit about Hollywood and what God did in his life and the movies that he has previously made and the ones that he's believing God to make currently right now. So I hope you guys sit back, grab some popcorn and a drink, and enjoy this program. We want to say, first of all, we give all glory and all honor to God, to Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach, to take over this program. And we hope that this will minister to your heart and to your soul. This program and this ministry is a combination of end time events. It is a combination of end time kingdom ambassadors in the arts of music, worship, art, and dance and movie. So again, we hope that you enjoy this program. Until we wait for Vanessa to come on and join us, God bless you. And again, we are introducing Robert Kollar. So go ahead, Robert, and take it over for me.
Thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, I love nothing better than popcorn and God.
Amen.
So I hope everybody does have some popcorn there. And we pray for Vanessa. Lord, keep her safe wherever she is. Bring her to us. She's a really good friend of mine personally. And so when somebody's missing in action, we do get concerned, but we trust that Vanessa's okay.
She's trying actually to, she says she's trying to log on. She's having trouble with her phone. Out of all the days that she would have trouble, today is the day.
Well,
Let's say a prayer
too,
before we start.
we got behind a lot of traffic trying to get home today, too. We have a snowstorm. I'm upstate New York right now. We just left New York City. We were living there for a bit, and our story is that we've moved around a lot. I grew up in Southern California. I was a surfer. You couldn't get me out of the water. I never went to school. Southern California had a very serious problem. They built their schools too close to the ocean. So, I was very smart and realized I'd rather go to the beach than go to school. So
Right.
I became a good surfer. And in those days, it was surfing, and then it became drugs and partying and girls and all that secular, wonderful lifestyle as we thought it to be. I was not grown. I was not raised in a Christian household. We did have a Bible in our living room on a shelf, and I guess it looked good up there. I think I saw my mom pull it down twice. And the whole time I was growing up, I pulled it down one time and looked through the pages. It felt interesting. I couldn't understand anything I was reading, and that was it. We never went to church. And my dad's an artist, and my mom was, into the arts too. So, I mean, we grew up in a very artistic household. There was love in our family. My parents were good parents. We just didn't have Christ in the house. When I became an adult, started working in the world, I was attracted right away to Hollywood. And so moved from the Huntington Beach area, Orange County beaches of Southern California, to, because I love the ocean so much, I Venice Beach, Santa Monica area, and commuted to Hollywood, Burbank, and all those studios there. And I got multiple jobs in the movie business.
Mhm.
I would learn a profession, either become good at it or meet somebody who was good at it. Then I'd move on to something totally foreign and do the same thing again. And so it was my education working in every department in the movie business. There is wardrobe, props, producer's assistant, director's assistant, um, you name it, camera. I was a good photographer. I started studying acting. I started doing actors' headshots, their resume photos and things like that. Built a business all around everything I was doing. By the time MTV got invented, I was at the right place at the right time, and I just bought myself my first 16 millimeter Airflex Super 16, actually, SR movie camera. So
Right.
I was making music videos with all the famous LA bands before they were famous. And so I had a good, I mean, I was always at the right place at the right time, it seemed like. In the meantime, my life and my drug use and my partying and all the secular stuff was also catching up to me, and no matter how much money I make, I'd be broke by the end of the week. And I made good money. At one point, I got involved in the porno industry. I actually was not an actor in it, but filming. I was a cameraman and I was really good. And, I was paid cash. It was moonlighting hours. Everybody that was making money in Hollywood that, also invested in that industry at that time. And I didn't see anything wrong with
Mhm.
it. It just seemed it was just a job to me. But there was this dark cloud over everything I was doing. I remember in those years, there was a lot of darkness, and I was never happy. And I started to not like myself more and more and more. And to the point where I just basically ran my career and my work and everything into the ground. Had the cocaine habit, uh,
Mhm.
drugs,
Wow.
heroin, the whole thing, and just was just a horrible lifestyle. Breaking up with girlfriends all the time. Every other week, I'd be breaking up with another girlfriend, and
So basically, Robert, it almost sounds like you were looking for some type of fulfillment. No matter how much money you had, how much materialistic things you had in your life, you were looking for something to fill that void in your heart. Is that correct?
that was because at the same time I was exploring spiritual avenues like transcendental meditation, self realization fellowship, Raja Yoga, the spiritual university of the Bar Kamari, all these things except for the Bible. The church and the Bible and Jesus were like, no, I've seen the Jesus Freak movement in Huntington Beach, Orange County, and I thought, no, I don't want anything to do with that. So I shied from that. But I was searching for something always. I'd go through these periods of cleaning up and then I'd get really active in my work. I'd put all my energy back into work again, and started wanting to instead of working on everybody else's movies, I started wanting to write and produce my own movies. So I started raising my own financing, and I just kept attracting people like me. One project in particular, I attracted the most wanted fugitive in Switzerland, and he was wanted for embezzling
Wow.
$138 million out of the Swiss government, and he got busted on our film. So I mean, that whole thing just blew up, and
Mhm.
it just got to this place where I felt like I was no longer welcome in Hollywood. Nobody ever told me that to my face, but I felt it. I felt like everywhere I went, people knew I brought trouble with me. And I finally realized that that was my problem. Hollywood
Mhm.
was the problem. I didn't know it was me. But I always thought something else was my problem. And so I left. I moved to Wyoming because my sister had married a cowboy and she built a house on a horse ranch. And, and I thought, well, I'll be change my life. I'm going to go
Mm-hmm.
do something there. And the last thing I did is because I ran out of money is I started working as a bartender in the local bar. Well, that's the last thing I needed was my own bar,
Right.
and so
Yes.
that created trouble. So when I realized, okay, I got to make one more move, and someone was telling me about Montana that they had a good film school there, and it was like Wyoming, beautiful mountains, rivers, all that what I fell in love with. But there was also some art because the universities there had good film and music and art. And I was always attracted to that. So I thought, okay, I'll make one more move. Well, that bar that I was working at threw me a going away party. And at that party, you got to imagine if you're managing a bar, and I had become the manager within 2 weeks of working there.
Right.
And I only worked there 2 months. It's really amazing that they threw this big going away party for me.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're working at a bar and they're throwing you a going away party, you can imagine there's a lot of alcohol.
Yes.
18 shots of tequila, and I'm not really counting. I'm just exaggerating. I don't know. Might have been more, might have been less. A bunch of beer, who knows? But somebody introduces me to this beautiful young girl, and I don't remember anything else other than I woke up with her at my house.
Okay, let me just stop you right there. For those of you who may be coming in to join us, we are streaming here live on StreamYard and also on YouTube. Please feel free to leave a comment. We have Robert Kollar, an actor producer from Hollywood, and he has given his life. He gave his life to the Lord. He's giving a wonderful, wonderful testimony. So if you happen to come in on the middle of this or toward the end, you want to take and you want to listen to this video from the beginning. This is an amazing, amazing testimony. And we are also still trying to get Vanessa. She's trying to click in. Robert, I had to resend her the link. So let's just continue to pray that she's able to come on. So go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, this is a blessing, because
Yeah.
this is all God. This is nothing I did.
Amen.
And I that woman that I woke up next to, uh, she never told me that she was somebody else's wife,
Hmm.
and I didn't know that. And she had 2 kids, and I didn't know that. There was no wedding ring. There was no talk about it. She mentioned something. I asked something about birth control. I remember she said she couldn't get pregnant. Well, the truth would have been she couldn't get pregnant by her new husband because he had a vasectomy, but she
Right.
never completed that sentence. So everything seemed like okay on my end. That was, you know, I was a secular guy. Sleeping with a girl didn't seem like a big deal to me.
Hmm.
Um, but when I found out the next day, it wasn't she that told me. It was a friend of mine that came over and found her at my house right before she left. He told me she was somebody's wife. And I know that just felt really bad to me.
Hmm.
Like that was like probably the worst thing I think I ever did. I felt like I had two morals in life, and that's all I had was reduced to two morals. You don't sleep with another man's woman, and you don't commit suicide.
Yes.
Two morals. And here I just broke one of them. I mean, not really by choice, but still, I had that feeling. And all I knew was it was a good thing I was moving and they threw me a going away party and I could start my life over one more time.
Right.
But I also had learned that every time I ran away, I brought me with me.
Hmm.
So nothing changed no matter where I went. When I got to Montana, I just knew I was tired, I was worn out, and I wanted God. I knew about God. Hi, Vanessa.
Hey,
Hi,
sorry,
Vanessa.
technical difficulties. Sorry, this took me forever.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here. You look great.
She
Good
does.
to
She's
see you.
beautiful.
Yeah. Good to
Yeah.
see you, friend.
Robert had some issues getting on, and he was stuck in traffic behind an accident. And then I had my issues over here going on. So, that's when this is a God thing, when all this is trying to come against
And
you.
the enemy's trying to mess it up. So
Yeah. So,
I just want to get through this whole log of my past because my story is really good at what God did next.
Oh, yeah. Such a great story.
So I had all this life of problems and sin and decadence and Hollywoodism and surfingism and me, myself, and I-ism. And I was a very selfish, self-centered, self-seeking individual that learned to hate himself.
yes.
And by the time I found out that I had slept with a married woman, and I just something changed. Anything would be better than what I was doing. That's all I knew. I still didn't know the Lord, but I've been seeking. I've been seeking for a while. Back when I was like 17 years old, I did have a surfing experience in Mexico where I end up surfing in a lightning storm. I was in the water 200 miles away from anywhere, and all of a sudden I realized I'm in a lightning storm. What am I doing in the water? And I got out, and then I found there was like this cloud in the sky. I was in the Mexican desert. Nowhere, no town was anywhere nearby, no people. And I saw this cloud that looked like a face. And I thought it was the face of God. It was just a beard and eyebrows and eyes and twitching, and it was the center of this electrical storm. Like every time it twitched or blinked, bolts of lightning shot out across the horizon.
Wow.
And I knew right then and there at 17 years old that there is a God, and he was not me, and he
Right.
was the boss of the universe. But it still took another 35 years before I found Christ. Another 35 years, even though I had that testimony and that experience, near death experience, surfing an electrical storm, in the middle of nowhere in Mexico, all by myself, running away from life at 17 years old,
Wow.
living in a Volkswagen camper van. So, anyway, that was always in my background and my memory through everything I've been through, good times, bad times. It was always very present, like it was recent, even though it was when I was 17. Well, when I got to Montana, I just made a decision. I wasn't going to use alcohol anymore. I wasn't going to use drugs. I was going to clean up. I was going to try to find a job, a real job like normal people, not an artist job. I'm not very good at real jobs, by the way.
Me neither.
I tried.
Me too.
And I ended up, getting hired by the university to be a cinematography teacher at the film school. It was an adjunct. The cinematography teacher had a family emergency in another state, and it was mid-semester, and I had been hanging around there because I was volunteering on student films because I just can't seem to keep away from movies, movie making. And so it was really cool, I was like a professor, and had never been to college or anything like that. And here I'm on a University of Montana, and it was really cool, up in the mountains, and I loved it. And years went by, and I had a couple, like 3 years sobriety all of a sudden. I mean, I wasn't really counting the days or anything like that, but I cleaned up my life. I was enjoying the outdoors, hiking, snow skiing, fishing, biking, and just loving God's creation.
Yes.
And still didn't know the Lord though. And all of a sudden I got a letter. And it came from Child Services of Utah, Salt Lake City. And I opened this letter, and it says, they have my name and all that, everything correct, and said, you are being accused of being the father of a 3-year-old girl.
Mm.
And I immediately thought of that woman that was married, because I
Right. Yeah.
didn't really do one night stands that much. I had a lot of multiple girlfriends, but they were usually lasted more than one night.
Right.
But and not much longer. But anyway, she's the only person that popped in my mind. I go, well, how could that be? She said she couldn't get pregnant. And but I thought, well, I had one thought. If this is true, then God would never give me something that I couldn't handle.
Yes.
I had that thought. I don't know where or why. So within 24 hours of getting that letter, and I'd never been in Salt Lake. I mean, I didn't know anybody in Salt Lake City. I
Mhm.
had met her in Wyoming.
Wow.
See, but her story was he got divorced from that guy, started hanging out with another guy that was court ordered to stay away from his ex-wife and kids, and
Mhm.
they got together and they moved to Salt Lake City. And he knew all about child support being kicked out of his own family.
Gosh.
Right.
So that's how it became. So that was the only confusing thing. Like I never slept with anybody in Salt Lake. Like how could this be? But I drove through a blizzard through the mountains in the middle of whenever that was, January, I guess. And it was a 7-hour drive to Salt Lake City from Bozeman, Montana. And all I had as a lead was the return address on the envelope. So I went to that place. I figured out where it was. And I go and park the car and go into the building. And I'm just kind of da da da, happy go
Mhm.
lucky. Like, here I am going to do something right for the first time in life. I go into the third floor where it was, and I hold the letter up to the window. And I said, "Hi, I'm this guy." And the lady, the receptionist, she was behind glass. She looked at me and said, "What do you want?" I said, "Well, what am I supposed to do? I'm this guy. You guys sent me this letter." She was so surprised because their job is hunting down deadbeat dads.
Right.
They don't have them just walking in the office and, "Hi, here I am."
Right.
I
Yeah.
was like the first one ever. And she goes, she didn't know what to do with me. She goes, "Well, go have a seat over there." And so I didn't know, I sat down. Next thing I know, all these people came out and they're all looking at me. And I thought, I got really uncomfortable all of a sudden. And then they started laughing and said, "Hey, don't worry. We're just not used to seeing people come walking in here." So
Mhm.
eventually, whoever was the case worker for our case came out. And I didn't know this, but I made friends that day because of my willingness. Excuse
Wow.
me, I'm so emotional. This is my life changing moment. I
Right.
did something right for the first time for somebody else besides me. I wanted to learn how to be a dad, and I wanted to be my daughter. I didn't want to get back together with the mother. I didn't want anything else. I didn't even want my daughter to live with me. I just wanted to be able to help her
Right.
grow up somehow. And so I said, then she told me, she goes, "Well, I can't give you the information where they live." And I went, "Why?" She goes, "Because I got to protect them." And I went, "Protect them from what?" She goes, "From guys like you." I go, "What are you talking about? I came here to do the right thing. What do you mean?" And she said, "This is just procedure." And I go, "Well, how do I find out who my daughter is and how do I meet her?" And they said, "Well, the mother will have to contact you." Well, how's she going to do that? Well, we don't know. I mean, here they were. I went all the way here, 700 or 7-hour drive through a blizzard, spent whatever amount of money I had to do this. And I remember I just applied for a credit card. It was my first credit card
Mhm.
that I didn't mess up. And I wanted to buy stuff for my daughter. And so This is my granddaughter. She wants to. I now have a
Hi,
Hi.
Addie. Addie.
Hi, Addie. Oh my God.
Hi, sweetheart.
I haven't seen you in
Hi,
so long.
Addie.
Hi, baby.
Yeah. So
she's
the
so
story gets
pretty.
better. So I leave. I'm totally disappointed. But I get in the car and I started praying. For the first time, I prayed to God I did not know. And I said, God, I came all the way up. What's the purpose of this? And then I stopped praying and I looked across the road. There's a 7-Eleven store. And I had this thought. And it's all God. Go in there, buy some paper, buy an envelope, buy a stamp, write a letter. And in those days, they had those telephone calling cards.
Mhm.
Cell phones weren't all that popular yet, or at least not everybody had one. So I go in there and I buy a $20 phone card, I buy an envelope, I buy a stamp, I paper, and I write this letter to who I think the mother is.
Right.
And I just tell her my heart, hey, I just want to, if you don't want me around, okay, great. But if you do, I want to do more than just pay child support. I'll pay child support one way or the other, but I want to be active in my daughter's life, if it's okay with you. And it was and then I put the letter in the envelope, but I didn't seal it. I put the stamp on it and I went upstairs because I didn't know where to mail it, obviously. So I went back into the building and I knocked on the window again, and the lady looked like, "We're not going to get rid of you, are we?" I go, "No, but here, I wrote a letter to the mother, at least to who I think the mother is. You can read it, and if it's okay, can you at least forward it to the mother?" And I included a $20 phone card and with my phone number and all that stuff. 2 weeks later, I get a call from the mom, so she invites me down. So I go there. She set up a certain time. It was really important I be in this time frame. She was lying again. She didn't tell me she got remarried, and she didn't tell her husband that I was coming. And so she knew he would be at work. Well, I got there, and 10 minutes after I got there, he came home because he got fired from Walmart. And he got home, and there I was, and he flipped. He pulled a knife on me in front of the kids, and this and that. And he was just like, and I'm thinking, gee, what's going on? I never realized this, but the mother had told everybody in her family that I had raped her.
What?
Oh my! Wow.
So I didn't know. I never even had the thought. So that's why nobody liked me and trusted me. And her addiction was other men. She wasn't into drugs. She wasn't into alcohol, but she was addicted to other men, and they were always guys fresh out of prison, wanted by the parole officer,
Mhm.
unemployable. I mean, getting fired at Walmart is pretty bad.
Mhm.
And abusive. She had been married. By the time she was 50 years old, she'd been married 7 times, and she has 6 different children, all different dads. And my daughter's in the middle. But I got to meet my daughter that day, even though she saw that scene, and I was able to say, look, I'm going to come back somehow. I don't know how, but I will. God allowed it somehow that every month I got to make that trip. And it got worse and worse and worse to where finally friends helped me out. I got a lawyer in Utah and we went for full custody. And I had found out in the trial that they had 14 counts of domestic violence against us. So I
Wow.
won an unanimous landslide, emergency custody,
Yeah.
full-time custody.
Right. Now, Robert, let me ask you a question. What kind of situation or conditions were she living in at the time?
Well, I had done film work for the Los Angeles Sheriff
Mhm.
and LAPD,
Right.
where I would do ride-alongs, and after they busted a crime scene, I'd
Mhm.
go in and video the surveillance, the
Yes.
station, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been in better looking crack houses in East Los Angeles than anywhere my daughter ever lived. She was malnourished to the point where her skin had a green tint. She was underweight, malnourished, pale, green, just totally unhealthy. Kids crawling around on the floor full of cigarette butts. Uh,
Wow.
they lived in abandoned buildings that had no windows, no furniture.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and how they managed to exist that way, I don't know. But it was new locations, new locations. Every time I went there, they were in another location. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I ended up with full custody, and this is where it really began. I didn't think I'd win. Matter of fact, I thought I'd lose. I never had a job, didn't have a family. I've been arrested for drugs before when I was 18 years old. So I thought, there's no way I'm going to win. But I did. And that's when walking out of the courtroom, my daughter's in my car now going home with me. And
Wow.
that's when I freaked out. I went, oh my goodness, she fell asleep in the passenger seat. And I look over and we're driving and I'm like, oh no, what am I going to do now? She wants to eat food every day. Like
Right.
I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to feed
Food
a
every
cat.
day.
Little underwear, and comb their
Mhm.
hair and give them baths and take them to school. And I
Right.
never had any of that. And it freaked me out. And that's when I said, God, I really need you now. I
Yes.
needed you all along, but I need you now. I can't make a mess of this daughter's life.
Wow.
And that's where I cried out to God. I cried out, I cried out, and next thing you know, God put a buddy in my life that I've known for a while, but he used to always say, "Oh yeah, in the Bible it says this, and the Bible it says that," and I just kind of ignored it. And then one day I said, you always quote the Bible. What do you know about the Bible?" And he started telling me, and he goes, "Would you like to go through a Bible study?" I went, "Yeah." So next thing I knew, I'm reading the Bible with a friend of mine that I thought I was helping him,
Mhm.
in those days. I thought I was, helping him, giving him little jobs here and there and stuff like that. And he ended up saving my life. It was through him that I got baptized
Mm.
and started going
Amen.
to church. And then my daughter, as soon as she started with me, we immediately started going to church, and we got raised in the church together, her and I.
Wow.
So
Wow.
that's how that happened.
Yeah.
And for the next 12 years, we were totally with God.
Is Addie holding up a Bible?
Yeah.
Yeah, she wants to show it
Look
off.
at her.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
It's
she's
amazing.
new. She's
Hi.
in the
Hi.
Kingdom Kids. We go to
You're so
church.
cute.
So now that story I just told you is in a movie. We wrote a movie. We were told to. I didn't want to do it, but people heard our testimony over and over and said, "You ought to write a movie about that. You ought to tell your story in a movie." I
Mhm.
went, "No, no, no. I'd rather tell your story than my story." And we heard it so much, and then I had this movie I wanted to make in Asia, and
Is that
and
the
then we
Burmese
said,
one? In
"Huh?"
Burma? In Burma?
In Burma, yeah.
Wow.
And the Adoniram Judson film
Mhm.
about America's first foreign missionary and all that. We went to Burma. I took my daughter there when she was 15, and we researched the whole country and this guy's footsteps. And Adoniram Judson's his name. I've written the script. It won third place in the film festival.
Mhm.
It was really really a hot item, and we are going to make that movie, God willing. But when I went for financing, they heard our testimony. Said, "We'd rather see you make a movie of your story first."
Mhm.
I was so mad. I didn't want to make our story into a movie. I was embarrassed about it. It was bad behavior. It was like throwing your dirty laundry out on the lawn for the neighbors to see.
And now, Robert, weren't you doing something as we were talking the other day? You said that you were doing or selling insurance and so
Yeah.
forth, and you became really good at that. You were teaching others because you didn't want to have anything to do with actually making movies, correct? You didn't want
Uh,
to do the
when
whole
I got when Christy, that's my daughter's name, by the
yeah.
way, Christy, and she's on a weekend trip right now. Normally, this is my first time doing our testimony by ourselves.
Mhm.
Usually, she's
I
at the
know. Usually you have Christy there.
yeah. Well, when I got custody of her, first of all, my career, I was on an airplane every week. You know, in the film business, I worked for. Actually, at that time, I was working with Dennis Hopper before he passed away, and we had multiple projects going on, and so I was doing a lot of flying from North Carolina to LA to wherever we were working, and all of a sudden I have a daughter that wants a dad at home, and I have to get her in school, and I realized I had to quit my movie business, and I always remember I already said Hollywood was my problem, so it was
Yes.
easy, but I didn't know what to do, and I had a girlfriend that I'd met in Montana that had two kids, and she got no child support from her ex-husband, and but she made really good money, and she was selling insurance out of her house, and so we uh, we were. It was my first girlfriend in my new life, you know, being sober and all that, and we're still best friends to this day, by the way.
Mhm.
Even though she got married, we're still best friends.
Yes.
But and that was another God thing. Living with her and being with her, I had a moment where I felt the Holy Spirit was telling me that as long as I live with her and sleep with her, we would not end up being friends. But if I would move out and just have uh, uh, a non-sexual relationship with her, that we would remain friends for life. And I'm like, what? Well,
Yeah.
that was true. That was a whole.
Yes. Yeah.
So we ended that, and we had no fight, no breakup or nothing. I just moved back, and interesting enough, my old house came up for rent again. So moved right back into my old house,
Mhm.
just like that, a mile away from where she was living.
All right.
Well, I still went over there every day and all that, and I helped her with her kids, and she helped me with Christy, and I learned the insurance business, and I started selling life insurance and term mortgage and all that, and I got really good at it, but it was just like a dead job. Like my heart wasn't into it, and then all of a sudden, some friends from my church were talking to me about that, and they said, "Well, you know, why don't you go back in the movie business?" And I went, "Oh no, no, that almost killed me. You know, that's a wreck. Hollywood's a wreck. I don't belong there. I can't do it. I can't." And they convinced me. Said, "Well, how about this? Instead of making movies for Robert, why don't you make movies for God?"
Amen. Yeah.
And I thought,
Yes.
God doesn't need movies. You know, it was the weirdest thing at that time I ever heard,
Mhm.
but it stuck. And within 1 week, I was on this. I was already writing scripts, and
Wow.
I did a Chevy truck commercial, and some agent from almost 20 years ago called me, and a French director hired me for a Chevy truck commercial, and I got money, and so I quit the insurance business and been working on true redemption stories ever since.
Amen.
So we made our movie. It's called Take Two,
Mhm.
TWO, spelled out. Take Two. It's distributed by BMG, Bridgestone's Multimedia Group. You can see it on Amazon Prime. Take Two, the movie, and we did this movie, and it was miraculously made in Montana.
Yes.
20 years of trying to make my own movie in Hollywood with Hollywood in my backyard, I could not even get the film off the ground. I'm living in the middle of nowhere in Montana and make my first feature movie, and people love it. And it's totally God, totally God. It's the story I just
Yes.
told you. So meanwhile, we get that film distributed, and it's time to move on in life. I think we were just getting a little too comfortable, and our house caught on fire and burnt down, and my daughter was entering her senior year of high school,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden we're like homeless, kind of. You know, we have to find a new place to live, and after 19 years living in this house, it burned down, all our stuff, everything. It was a mess, and so we ended up. A friend of ours gave us a camp trailer, and we pulled it in the driveway of our old house, and it still had electricity and water running, so we were able to live in the trailer outside our old house for the winter, and the door didn't even shut all the way. And it
Wow.
was one of the coldest winters they've had in Montana in a while. But we had a dog and the two of us, and we made it work. God was there with us. And then my daughter, um, she went to a Christian dance. It was in her senior year, and I got news that my mother just died,
Right.
and I went, oh no, and so I was gone, and my daughter didn't have a ride, from a dance, and this guy that was we knew him from our church. His father was an elder in the church. Picks up my daughter and gives her a ride home, but he didn't take her home. He ends up driving her behind the fairgrounds in the dark, and he rapes her. He raped my daughter at 17 years old, and she got pregnant, and that's how we have Adeline, who you just met. So here's my daughter. I'm gone. She gets raped. She doesn't know how to handle it. Her head is just fried over this.
Wow.
Her last 3 years of school, she had written and won essays and speech contests on pro-life,
Mhm.
choosing life, against
Yeah.
abortion.
Yes.
Was She'd won first and second prize 3 years in a row.
Wow.
So Satan attacked her. She's now all of a sudden what she's been writing about. All of a sudden she's faced with, what do I do? Do I get an abortion? No, of course not.
Wow.
What and everything was a mess. Our house burned down. My mom died. My dad suddenly gets in a really bad accident. He's
Mhm.
living in Munich, Germany for 40 years. So now I got to go to Germany to go get him and move him back to the States. And my daughter's trying to find a moment to tell me what happened. And everything, we never had that moment. I'm so busy, and this catastrophe and that catastrophe, plus work, plus what are we going to do? Just plus trying to find a place to live, plus all the stuff my daughter's going through in her senior
Right.
year. In the meanwhile, she doesn't tell anybody that she's pregnant. She didn't even tell anybody she got raped. And
Oh my gosh. So she had to carry all of that in her
she
amongst everything that was going on in you guys' life. She had to hide that and bury that in her heart. And that's
she
hard for a young lady.
Yeah.
Well, ask Vanessa. She's a tiny thing. She
Yeah.
was 7 months pregnant before she showed it all, and I didn't know. And then all of a sudden, it just came out like, oh no.
Mhm.
Well,
Wow.
it's 7 months later. You don't go to the police stand, and it's somebody from our church, and it's like, wow, what a mess. Small town, Bozeman, Montana. Like this is not like living in Los Angeles. This is like, what do we do? And the pastors of our church, I went to them first for prayer and guidance and counseling, and they just moved into a brand new church building, really big, and were growing. And it really blew my mind. Their approach was, don't say nothing. And they wanted to sweep it under the carpet and have
Really.
pretend like they were going to get married. And I go, what? I go, what? A
She's going
crime?
to marry her rapist, or she can't come into this church.
Yeah, there's been a crime committed here, and you're just trying to say, like, act like nothing happened and everything's okay, and they come walking hand in hand in church. How's she ever going to trust this guy? How anybody? No. And they went in through a couple of days of these meetings, and he even admitted in front of his parents, me, two pastors, and my daughter, we all in this room discussing what's going on. And he admitted that he held her down and forced her, and he was honest about it, which I'll give him that.
Yeah.
But it's like, so my daughter said, no, I don't trust him. I don't want nothing to do with him.
Mhm.
No. And she was working for the last 4 years, besides doing these pro-life essays and speeches. She's been studying acting, and she got accepted
Right.
in New York City's School of American Academy of Dramatic Arts.
Mhm.
So AMDA. It's actually, yeah, AMDA, American Musical and Dramatic Academy. So it's the best acting school in the world. It's now number one, higher up than Juilliard. So she got accepted right away, and all this is going on, and then there's the guy that raped her, his parents, because he was a single boy. He didn't have any brothers and sisters. His mom was trying to keep my daughter from being allowed to leave the state to go to New York. So sheriff shows up at our house with some papers, and they had a court order preventing us from leaving. So I knew enough about the law. Thank God, bypass.
Mhm.
I immediately went to my lawyer, and we answered that, and we got put two and two together, and my lawyer went after the guy and said, "Look, if you don't drop this, and matter of fact, this is what we want you to do. You admit everything you just already admitted, and sign an affidavit saying you relinquish all your rights to being a parent, to having anything to do with my daughter or his daughter, and stay away." And he signed that paper. And so then all of a sudden the school finds out my daughter has a baby, and they said, "Well, you can't come to school with a baby. There's no way. You got to live in the dorms." It's like, they squeeze 4 years in 2 years. It's like 20-hour days almost,
Right.
and there's no way. So now my daughter's shattered. She's already open. She's already depressed.
Mhm.
Everybody's thinking she's the bad guy. And the pastor said, "Look, if you're not willing to do what we advise you to do, consider counseling with this man, then you're going to be no longer invited to this church." So they kicked me.
Wow. And that's the way the church is today, unfortunately.
Mhm.
We are not supposed to be shunning anybody. We're supposed to be welcoming. How else are we going to win the souls to kingdom if we don't go into dark places, or if we don't accept those who are so-called not in the church cliques?
Right. Well, here they go. I thought they were our friends, our brothers, the
Mhm.
pastors. We served in that church as well as were served in the
Right.
church. I started a prison ministry there, a foster kid program there. We were involved in every outreach, everything that church did. We were there every time the doors were unlocked, and it became our home. And this was our family. This is all we knew. We never been to a church
Wow.
before,
Betrayal.
and all of a sudden our pastors turned against us, and they kicked my daughter out. And then they had the gall to tell me, "Oh, but you can still come, Robert." Like, yeah, right. What am I going to do? Leave my daughter in the car or tell her to
Right.
go
Yeah.
home? And I just like, so now all of a sudden the school's not allowing her to go to school. So everything's dead in the water. My daughter's dreams, she's already depressed. I just got on the phone and I pulled my director's card and I said, "Look, I'm her father. I'm a film director. I said, how about if I move to New York too and get an apartment near the school and
Right.
I raise my granddaughter while my daughter goes to school. They made that exception. Praise God.
Yes.
We moved. Now we're like that starts our second movie we're making right now. I just finished a screenplay and we're calling it She's Not an Exception. Because even though my daughter was pro-life, and choose life and against abortion and all that, people were always saying, even her closest friends, well, if you get pregnant from rape or incest, then it's okay to have an abortion. And we know families that are married that can't even get pregnant.
Yes.
So we know if there's a baby in the womb, God put it there,
Yes, that's right.
not for us to kill.
Yes, right.
And no way, no way. I mean, can you imagine that little girl you just saw
Hmm.
could have been terminated?
Yeah. And
I mean,
Robert, if you think about it, there are a lot of women out there that have had abortions and later on in life, they have so much remorse about it. They literally, some of them have gone crazy. They've had a lot of mental and emotional damage because of it, because they don't know how to deal with that. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people, so called in the church, are supposed to be helping these women, these young women and older women through these processes. But instead, what they're doing is they are so judgmental against these women. These women they don't want to have anything to do with the church, which church people, okay? And it's really, really, really sad. You have so many broken women. They are remorse for either having an abortion or even those who've maybe lost babies. You know what I mean? And I feel
yeah,
like we need to have some type of support, whether it's through the church or, even in filmmaking, because what you're doing is your movie is really reaching out to a lot of women who have not had answered questions. Your daughter, look at her testimony, and I would love to actually have her on with you guys again so that she can actually talk about her emotions and how she was feeling, what she was thinking during that time, maybe how she was seeking God, what was God speaking to her and in her life. Were there any older women or even men of God that were speaking into her life at that point to help her keep going, to run that race? So I think it's really important what you are doing. And I really would like to also talk about your programs that you told me about through your film. Talk about your what is it? I forget what it was. Your movie making business and what you guys are doing with young women, with children to kind of
absolutely.
help them. Yes.
First of all, to back up 1 second, is like the church in our particular case too was more concerned with their image
Yeah.
and
Right.
counting butts in the seats, as I put it.
Right. Mhm.
And then they were of the individuals that went there, and it was really the most heartbreaking thing. And we left there with our tail between the legs still, just because we thought, wow, we got kicked out of church. I mean, must be something we did. We still felt like it was our shame. It wasn't until we
Right.
got here to New York that we started opening up again and people saying, oh, you need to talk about that. You need to
Mhm.
there's churches all around the country and all around the world that are doing that, and you got to speak up. You got a responsibility.
Right.
So this next movie that we're doing is based on that part after Christie, you know,
Hmm.
after Take Two. It's not a sequel, but it's a standalone movie, but it's a continuation, and it's she's not an exception.
Right.
There's no exceptions here. You do not have abortion. It's
Exactly.
just it. Bottom line.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, there are women out there hurting their 12 and 14-year-old girls like they're scared to death. What are they going to do? Who are they going to turn to? They can't tell their parents.
Hmm.
So they sneak off and have an abortion. So my daughter knows she's got to reach out.
Right.
She's got to find these girls. It's not like they're going to call us out of the phone book when they don't have.
Hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So our movie company is called Movies with a Mission Cornerstone Production. I had started the prison ministry and the foster care program at our church, that same church. And actually, let me rephrase that. God used me to start that. I had no idea what I was doing, but I do know that when I told that first story about my daughter, that when I told that to a hardened group of inmates, uh, I was like really scared. Like these guys look like they're going to eat me for lunch,
Right.
you know, in prison. You got to imagine. When I looked up, all of them had tears in their eyes.
Wow.
And I went, how in the world?
Wow.
And I realized I'm talking to men that have kids that they'll never see again in the free world.
Mm-hmm.
And God used me to touch their hearts. I made friends in prison. They started requesting me, and I started doing these one-on-ones.
Wow.
And it's like, wow. And I have no experience. I don't even memorize verses in the Bible or scripture or anything. I just talk. And then with the foster kids, I noticed like we had this one kid. He was 12 years old, and he'd already lived with 14 different families.
Wow.
Didn't trust anybody, and he was already a hardened criminal at 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Foster program. Like, how does this happen? And then what happens between 12 years and 18? And then God showed me the dots he had connected.
Yes.
There's no biblical mentorship.
Yes.
There's no spiritual help. So these kids are the adults that I'm witnessing to in the prison.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw that. I thought, God, how could you use me to help here? What can I do? And I had this idea came that in that kid that came to live with us that was 12 years old, his name is Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that much. And now he's 17. But they took him away from me after we had him 5.5 weeks or 5.5 months, because at 6 months I could have started the adoption process, but they took him away because they're making money on him.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
You
Exactly.
know,
Right.
so I mean, he had started trusting us. I paid out of my own pocket, got him into a private Christian school where Christy went, and they went to school together, even though they were different ages. He loved it. He never been exposed to the Lord. He
Mm-hmm.
went to church. He asked Jesus into his heart, this and that. And he got to his timing with us was when we were filming take two. He got to every single day be on the movie set. So he learned a little bit. He was fascinated as could be. I kept watching him, eager to help, help watch the dog, help carry this,
Yeah.
help do that, help, he did the action, take one, take two things. I mean, he just was so willing to be helpful on that movie set, and he got to watch every single day of filming. And then that idea came, wow, if we can offer a mentorship program
Yes.
where we teach the arts to these kids that don't have the means to do it,
Mm-hmm.
at risk kids, they call them. I don't know what, foster kids. I don't know. I want to think of a really good name for them. I don't like calling them at risk kids. They're
Right.
great kids. They just been broken, broken at 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
This guy's father checked out of a Motel 6 in Las Vegas when he was a baby, and he left them there. He grew up in a foster program. 14 families had him by the time he was 12 years old. And then they took him away from us. And we were the first family he started trusting. He took care of our dog, and I mean, he just was. It was hard. He was a hardened criminal. He had his moments. Trust me,
Yeah.
he was not a piece of cake. But um, anyway, And so I never got to see him again. They took him from school. They didn't tell us. And but recently, this year, here in New York,
Mhm.
he's old enough to have a cell phone now and a Facebook
Oh,
account.
nice, nice.
Got
Okay.
a hold of Christy
Yeah.
on
Wow.
Facebook, and so we know he's okay. Our prayers were answered because we kept praying
Wow.
for him, and a Christian family did manage to rescue him and adopt
Wow.
and love him. And
Mhm.
so he's growing up in Montana in a Christian family, and he's
Wow.
very happy.
Thank God.
But
Yeah.
we God used us to plant
Wow.
those seeds. So now we want to have in our filmmaking every department intern one of these kids. You
Yeah.
know, help them develop a resume, help them get it.
Right.
Because I believe that one less kid I'll have to visit in prison.
Yes. You know
Yeah,
what? Let me step in there and just say I'm so happy that you are doing this. And I know that there are others that are probably out there doing the same thing for these foster kids, because I'm actually one of those foster kids, one of those street kids at a very young age. As I was sharing with you, Robert, the other day, how my mother actually hit me in my head when I was asleep with a bat to try to, you know, kill me basically. And my brother was injured as well, but I ended up in a coma. I ended up in the hospital for some time. I had major operations on my head, but after that I ended up in foster home. I had to have so much counseling, and I mean, it was, I had issues. I was emotionally damaged
Oh,
as a little girl, but at the same
I'm so
time,
sorry.
it's like how God created me. I was always really rough and tough at the same time. But I ended up in foster home after foster home after foster home, and these people did not care about me. I could tell you that I remember where I used to bum money off of the bums, just to go and get something to eat. And when I would go back to where I was sleeping, it was cold. It was a mat on the floor. There was no food in the refrigerator. So this is how I lived for a little bit. And so, I ended up being a street kid. But I do remember there was a great great grandmother who always prayed for me. And so I was always hearing God's voice. At a very young age, I was hearing him speak to me. And but the thing is like you said, with this 17-year-old young man and other children that you are helping out to mentor, I really didn't have too much of that outside of the great great grandmother and God following me wherever I went. Because why? I had a destiny. I had a divine destiny, a call on my life, and she knew it. And so she prayed me into the kingdom. But I also grew up, I remember growing up and going into grade school and high school, and I was one of the most gentlest person, but yet I would cut you in a
I
minute.
know.
That
Yeah.
was just that mechanism of protecting myself.
Sure.
Why? Because of the things that I saw on the streets, people doping themselves up, gang bangs, violence, people getting shot. I saw a lot of horrible things growing up on the street. And so it caused so much anger inside of me that was instilled inside of me. And this is something that God had to, over time, begin to weave his love into my spirit, bring mentors into my life as I grew into womanhood. Okay. So I really do understand where you're coming from when you're talking about even like this 17-year-old kid being uprooted after he just began to trust you.
Yeah.
Okay. And so now in his mind, it's like, here we go again. And so it's almost like taking these children and just bouncing them from house to house to house, and to the point where most of them end up either dead
Hmm.
on the streets or in prison. So I really commend you for what you are doing. And I'm praying that God would really bring those who really have the same heart to your ministry, to the movie making business, and everything that you are doing to help support these
Amen.
children.
Thank you so much. It's a privilege and an honor to be called by God to become
Yes, it
a
is.
kingdom ambassador. and that's what I know we are, the
Yes.
three of us right now. We are kingdom ambassadors. And if anybody in your audience cares to want to help support any of what we're trying to do, my website, which you can contact me through, is, MWM, like standing for Movies with Mission, MWM Cornerstone.com, and you will see our films, our past films, the films we're raising up right now. We do our own financing, we raise our own financing. We're completely independent from Hollywood, but we have guaranteed distribution. That's one thing I have. They've liked my work so much that I have letters of commitment and
Mhm.
consent that they will distribute all our work.
Yes.
We have
Man,
distribution.
awesome.
So MWM Cornerstone, and the think about this: movie making is like a little world.
Hmm.
It has everybody. We need accountants. We need lawyers. We need
Yes.
production personnel. We need police officers, fire marshals, medical professionals,
Hmm.
plus the artists and the writers and the composers. And it's a little bit of everybody in a mini world. So if every department were to intern a kid and teach them where they already show an interest, we would save so many kids from
Yes.
going to prison.
Yeah.
I know this. It's not my idea. I don't think like that. This totally got birthed inside of me by the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Yes.
And it's been proven. The little boy Dallas is our first. We didn't even know what we were doing with this guy.
Hmm.
Just like I didn't know what I was doing when I got custody of my daughter. I cried out to God, "Oh God, now what do I do?" She wants to eat food every day. Well,
Mhm.
I knew that this guy came to our church and was talking about this foster program, and Christy and I were the only ones that signed up. We knew right away because I took my daughter away from her mother, and she had siblings,
Hmm.
6 other siblings, and she was no longer allowed to see him because her mom never wanted to reach out to her again, just
Wow.
because I won the court case, which
Hmm.
is horrible. But now that ever since she turned 18, she's managed to have communication with her mother again. And that's a miracle in itself. Her mother's still the same, just older, doesn't know the Lord, still doing the same thing, multiple boyfriends, prison type personnel. But at least she's talking to her daughter. But
Yeah.
they
Right.
lost that mother-daughter relationship thing. It's like two strangers talking.
Right.
Mhm.
You know,
Would probably have the opposite effect.
God can
You would
still
probably
do
be a
something.
caretaker in their
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know what God can do still.
Yes, we do.
So God can do can you imagine how many kids it's possible in the film industry
Hmm.
if we modeled this program to intern kids and if other people start doing it?
Right.
It would be amazing. It'd be totally amazing.
Right. A
So,
different generation. I mean, again, it's all about the generations with these children.
yeah,
Being
I
to
wish we would have thought about this sooner. We could have
yeah.
posted a thing on the bottom, a tagline on the bottom of the screen, but MWM Cornerstone.
Hold on, I'm going to write that in the comment section. So what would it
We'll
be?
do this again too. We'll get Christy on.
Yeah, MWM Cornerstone.
Oh, I have that in there. Okay,
Yeah,
so I did .com. I have that, and then
yeah,
Robert,
we're
you
not a nonprofit organization. We're
right,
not a 501c3. We didn't do
right.
anything like that. And maybe we will or maybe we won't. I don't know. I don't really care. That's not the
Hmm.
point of what's important to us. What's important is that we reach these kids.
Yes.
And the arts, I mean, vocational rehab and jobs you can learn in prison are basically auto mechanics, auto body, culinary, and agriculture. Well, agriculture would probably interest me, but other than that, if it was me, I'd stay a criminal. There's more money in the business.
Right.
You know, I offer them more stuff than that.
Yeah, yeah.
And the arts are unlimited, you know, and there's love involved. And not only that, then of course there's discipleship that, you know, we're kingdom ambassadors. There's nobody that's going to work with us that's not going to hear the word of God. You know,
Exactly.
when we made two, we had a lot of secular people working with us. Here's what we found out. They would say, you know, we'd carpool the locations after a day of filming, and people would talk in different cars, and I'd hear this feedback. People would say, guys, you guys pray before every shot. You pray before every meal. What's going on here? 3 people got saved while we were making take 2.
Amen.
And the lead actor got baptized while filming the movie.
Amen.
He had it in the role anyway.
Yes.
We stopped and baptized him first in real life,
Yes.
and then did it for the movie.
Right.
So God's using us.
He is. And you know what? I
Well,
talked to
Evangelist,
Vanessa, we're
right?
talking. Huh?
Yeah.
Leora and I had an experience doing our
Yes.
TV show with another actor too. Just
We did. And we're going to talk about that in just a second, because I want you to talk about The Last Evangelist. But I want you guys to kind of come together here, actors, and I want you to, well, me as well, I guess. But let's talk about Hollywood and how you feel that God is going to take over Hollywood. Because you know what? Jesus told us that we are to be the light of the world. We are to be the salt. How are we doing that now in Hollywood? And I would like for you and Vanessa to kind of tag team with that.
Well, I'll say one thing first. I've come to terms with this. Hollywood's really not the bad guy. At the end of the day, they just want to make money. Okay, now take that aside for a moment. In the meantime, they don't know how. They think all this guns and violence and sex and foul language is the way to do it.
Right.
And what I've noticed with the Christian Film and Television Association, which is founded by Dr. Ted Baer, Baehr, Ted Baer, and he's the guy that talked us into doing Take Two. He's the founder of Movie Guide and Christian Family Faith and Film Television Association.
Yes.
I might have the words wrong, but the heads of the studios now are consulting with him because they are watching the Christian film movement and industry. Dollar for dollar, we're making more money. We're making lower budget movies with big profits.
Right.
These guys are making big budget movies, and their profit margin isn't that big anymore. So they're starting to catch on. They want to hear from us. They want to watch us. They want to get into our work.
Yes. And you know what? I think a big part of that is that because people are hungry. People are seeing, like you said, the sex, the violence, and everything that's going on, but they're hungry and they're thirsty for something more.
Here's the thing:
it is that spirituality. You know, the Holy Spirit. It is God. It is Jesus that is going to fill that hunger. They go to a movie and they see the violence and everything, but they go away and they're still not satisfied. So when you have these, if I'm right, you know, you have these Christian movies that are being made right now, and people are getting touched by these Christian movies because they've been searching, whether they've been searching, you know, Buddha or whatever it is, Muhammad and all that stuff out there. But it's something about the glory of God that comes upon these Christian films that touches the heart of the people, where the person who's watching says, that's what's been missing in my life. This is what I need. I have found it.
Well, here's the thing about Hollywood is that I think people are actually getting tired of these actors. You know, they use their platform as a soapbox for politics. It never was like that throughout history. If you look at the Academy Awards from the 1940s up until now, you see the transition, the evolution between the actors. They were more grateful. It was about the movies. It was about the story. Now you just kind of like see how they get more and more selfish over time, and how the Academy Awards are just congratulating one another, how amazing they are. And then they use it as a platform to shoot off their mouths, flap their gums about politics that no one cares about. No one really cares about. And I think people are starting to like get tired of it. People are like, that their ratings are going down. The Academy Awards, the Emmys, the Grammys, their ratings are skyrocketing downward because no one.
Movie Guide awards are skyrocketing up.
Yeah,
exactly.
Movie Guide, yeah.
And
check out Movie Guide. MovieGuide.org.
And so I believe that the Lord is I believe that there's going to be a revival in Hollywood. I believe that God is raising up his people to take over. And even
but we have to be willing to go into the dark places, just like Jesus did. He went into the dark places in order to bring them out into the light. Yeah. So how is it that we as believers, Jews and Christians, because I'm a Jewish believer, how is it that we can't go into the dark place? How are we going to bring them out of the dark or shine the light if we are not willing to go?
Well, Leona, here's the thing. A lot of these studio chiefs and things like that a lot of them are Christian families. They don't speak up. We need to boldly speak up.
Yes.
We need to be boldly. Can you imagine Jesus being Jesus, but didn't share what he knew?
Right. Exactly.
We have to speak up. We got to be brave. Hey, we got to be willing to be, like John the Baptist,
Oh, that's been an interesting theme lately. I've been hearing about him. I believe, the forerunner for Christ. That there's a interesting foreshadow there. John the Baptist. I keep hearing him a lot lately. I had a dream about him last year. God revealed to me that it was John the Baptist in my dream. It was a beheading. And I don't know if he's going to be one of the two witnesses, but Christ is coming soon. And I keep hearing John the Baptist is.
Yes, he is.
The Lord is saying this is another forerunner for the second coming. And so God is allowing whatever it is to happen in the world, in politics, in the movie industry, so his people can come out of the woodworks and start doing projects that people are going to latch onto. You talk about people being scared, Robert. I think of, I don't know where Stephen Baldwin's heart is, but he does have a brother who is diabolically, I'd say, opposed to his own worldviews, and he's in trouble now. So it's probably hard for someone like Stephen Baldwin, a believer who wants to make great movies, to come out and just directly oppose his brother's worldview, someone who's so famous. So you're right. There is this kind of shutting the mouths of believers. And there is this fear that has kind of grasped the church, first of all, but also people who are believers in the film industry, because they'll be blacklisted. What's our encouragement for people? I think if people just stand up, like the mask thing, I never wear the masks anywhere I go. Sometimes I'll be maskless in the store and I'll see someone go, "You don't wear a mask," and I think they're going to heckle me, and I go, "No, I'm not going to wear it. I never do." And they take theirs off and they start to follow suit. I think it's going to be the same thing. People are so fearful. If we start standing up, people are going to follow suit, and they're going to just be unapologetically bold, and God will be able to move. The Holy Spirit will be able to move, because love casts out fear. We know that.
Exactly. And that's what's happening in the last days. And if you could also, Vanessa, talk about real quick the last evangelist and how God has used us in the last evangelist with David Hebner.
Yeah. Well, the thing about the last evangelist is it was a prophetic film on so many levels. David, my co-star, David and I play FBI agents who, working for the government against the church, busting the underground church. You, Leora, play Officer Levy on the side of the government.
Yeah, your camera is missing, by the way, just so I don't know if you.
I can see that. I don't know what happened there. And
so you're not there, but
there you are. Okay, there we go. Go ahead.
So the Last Evangelist, it's prophetic on so many levels. It's prophetic on the level that David wrote it for almost 4 years ago. And everything that he wrote is literally coming to pass right now. We started filming the TV series as the scamdemic was coming on the world stage. Hi, Addie. And the timing was impeccable, because we're literally filming the episode in the world. It's just simultaneously, coexisting right there. And so I started getting dreams and visions of certain scenes before we started filming, months before. God was giving me dreams. First of all, that I got the part. He told me, you got Bookman in the dream. David came in my dream and told me 2 days before I got the role that I got the role. And then David gave me the role. I started having dreams and visions of these really scary scenes, like martial law and the cops and people coming with AR-15s and shooting up innocent people, and then suddenly we're filming here in Kentucky.
Yeah.
And we're playing out the dreams that I had. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been here before, and so it's just interesting because, we call this TV series CSI Meets the Book of Revelation. Basically, it's an end times biblical crime series where we're just kind of playing out what's happening in the world right now, where the church is being persecuted. David Heavener, Hollywood producer, stopped doing secular films, and now he's doing this. And for anyone who's watching, if you want to hop on board, please go to davidheavener.com. This is not just a movie; it's a movement. A lot of stuff is going to come out of this. The Lord is in touch with some major people, Eric Metaxas, people at the Daily Wire. I'm trying to get a hold of people who are going to come on board. So this is going to be a major film.
Can you put that in the comment section? His David Heavener, for anybody who may come later to hear this. And then also we have Vanessa, if you want to talk about it. And we'll show you this in a little bit, Robert. I can't show this on air. But God gave me also a movie script, and I've talked to you a little bit about it. But this one is about superheroes. But it is along the biblical scene, a superhero, sci-fi action. And Vanessa plays also one of the superheroes as well as myself. We have been working on the costumes, and I
want to work with you guys.
Yes, please come on board and work with us. We're going to show you in the back room when we're done. We'll show you a couple of the costumes. We can't do it now, even though we're live streamed. And that's just because of sensitive information, even though the movie script is copyrighted and it is protected. I just don't feel like it's time right now to release the actual costumes.
No, I understand.
We've been working on this, and I told you I wrote this back in 2003. I am a script writer. It's like I have all of these. I can sit down and I have all of these ideas that God just begins to show me, and it's like things, they come to life before me, and I write what I see. It's just kind of weird how the Lord deals with me with that. But it was a joy to write it, and ended up bringing it out of the closet, back in 2017, 18, I think, maybe recently, 2020, and had it re-registered with the WGA and then also with the Copyright Office. But, God has been giving me all of these new ideas. Brother Stephen Ben Danoon, I literally just spoke with him several days ago about the script, and I sent him my costume, and he mentioned about connecting me with Oliver Stone. Like he was getting ready to go into a meeting with Oliver Stone, and then some other producer that is located in Washington. I can't remember his name, but that would be such an honor, because I know that this is a end time sci-fi action superhero script, and you're going to see when we get off, and we'll be able to show you a couple things, which will probably be here very shortly. But I feel like God is he's putting all of the puzzle pieces together, is what he's doing. And what he has had to do, he's bringing every component, as you said. Law enforcement and security has been really a big part of my life, but I feel that he's been bringing in certain movie producers such as yourself, for me to be a part of what you're doing, you to be a part of what I'm doing, Vanessa, vice versa, all of us coming together and putting our heads together, using our gifts that God has given us, bringing them together, both Jewish believers and Christian alike.
That's amazing. And when in the near future, I want you to bring on my daughter, Christy.
Yes, let's set that up.
She, graduated from her acting school, that one really good acting school, top of her class, the most loved student by faculty and students, and the first student to be a mother in the history of that school.
Wow, I didn't know that. She's an eloquent speaker. She's amazing.
Yeah, and she's doing a lot of speaking, and we've been on. We spoke publicly at several places, and then the pandemic ended a tour that was being set up for us. And just recently, I got contacted by uh, Abortion Free New Mexico is
Yes.
the organization's name, and they want to have us come and speak out in June, and it's starting to happen again. So if we add
Mhm.
entertainment to this, see, my whole thing is not making it just so talk about these issues, but make it also entertaining at the same time. Like
Mhm.
our films, we write them as action adventures, just like your
Yes.
superhero thing. But it's the hand of God in the whole story. So you're still getting the entertainment. You're still getting that rush that you get off of movies that people enjoy. There's just no sex scenes or
Yes.
foul language or violence, but there's problems, there's issues, there are real life situations. And you said you
Mhm.
had a background in law enforcement and security.
Yes.
You know darn well that there's times where you're not politely holding a gun to somebody's head.
Yes.
There's got to be some anger involved.
Mhm.
There's
Yes. Yes.
emotions. It's not like smile as you hold the gun.
Mhm.
It's that's baloney. That's not,
Yes.
and we don't want to be that way. We don't want to be fake in anything that we're doing.
Right.
This is for God. This is for us. This, us meaning the human race.
Mhm.
The world is, yeah, Jesus is coming because the world's frying itself.
Yes.
You
Exactly.
know, the
Yes.
pandemic and the politics and the world leaders and everybody. There's no harmony anymore. And we are outnumbered,
Mhm.
but
Right.
we're growing. But we are growing.
Yes.
Well,
Well,
these
here's yeah.
again, like our ministry, movies with a mission, Cornerstone Productions again. I'm just really pleased that God's using that. Kingdom ambassadors. I mean,
Yes.
But
that ought to be a title to a film.
here's
You
the thing
know,
though about
Yes.
Christian movies, though. We have to, something's got to give. We got to somehow, I mean, I have qualms about tapping into Hollywood and Netflix and taking money from them just based on their platforms. And David and I would probably go to head to head this because he wants no money from Hollywood. I have a different take on that. I think that we're all borrowing from the system. We're living in Satan's realm right now. And so no matter what we do, we are living in his system, and we should use whatever platform for whatever means to reach people. That's just my take. But in the same breath,
oh, I'll
you know,
talk to David. I'll
yeah,
just
Yes.
say, David,
Uh-huh.
take
yeah.
as much money as you could give from them, because then
I
that's
know.
money they have for other things.
Yeah,
Yes.
you have
Exactly.
to go into the darkness. Yeah, at some point you have to realize we are already in the darkness. We're already grasping at straws here. If we're in hell on earth, then we have to do whatever we can to climb our way out and use whatever means possible to get the gospel out, because it's not about us. It's not about our status. It's not about our morals and stuff. It's about getting the gospel out. Really, it's that
Yes.
simple. And so the thing about Hollywood is, there's two types of movies that happen when it comes to Christian film. One is that Hollywood takes over and they kind of indoctrinate the film
Mhm.
and kind of put their own spin on it. And it's not that biblical, right? But it's a good film, and, it might touch a couple people. Then on the other end of the spectrum, in the same breath, you have independent filmmakers who refuse to take money from Hollywood, who want to do their own thing, who don't want it tainted. And they have horrible movies because they have horrible actors. They have low budgets. So it's like there's no middle ground. We have to
Right.
come to the point where we are capturing the world stage on both ends of the spectrum. We need the good guys and we need the bad guys, the poor actors who are really, really interested and invested, to come together and help us to
Yeah,
make
you're
Hollywood,
right.
let's make
Yeah.
Hollywood great again. Forget about America. Let's make Hollywood great again.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Indeed.
Broadway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Same.
scripture says that the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous.
Yeah.
And so we are in that end time righteous wealth that we are believing that God is going to flood those who will truly use it for God's glory, not for gain, but for God's glory.
Well, in our website, mwmcornerstone.com, there we have a donate button. If anybody wants to, in the audience wants to donate, we put the money toward, the Kingdom Ambassadors
Yes.
mission, as far as, we're producing these films.
Mhm.
We're doing press releases. We're doing speaking engagements. On exactly what we're talking about right now. You're doing a show. Vanessa's doing a show. We've been on The Last Evangelist with David
Mhm.
Anger, and what a blessing that man.
Love David. Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
mean,
I get
he
you on
is.
the set.
Yeah, he is amazing,
Mhm.
and he's just. This is just the beginning,
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
And more speakings coming up, and yeah, this whole thing with the pandemic and all this, and Addie. You know what? I think Addie has this memory that Vanessa's our first friend we ever made in New York, and Adeline was only 3 months old then.
Looked
Mhm.
after her.
Vanessa used to babysit and pick her up at church and play with her, and she
Put her
didn't
on rocks.
you know,
To me right away. She was so
yeah, but I
baby
think she
sister.
recognizes Vanessa.
Yeah.
Well, this has been such a blessing. She is so adorable, and I would definitely like to get the three of us, well, I should say the four of us, back on again with your daughter.
5 of us, get Christy.
Yes, I
Yeah.
want to get her to come back on. If maybe you guys are available sometime in March, if she has an open schedule, let's do this because the one thing I don't like to do, I don't procrastinate when I want to
Mhm.
do something or God's talking to me about you. Vanessa
Yeah.
knows me. I'm
Mhm.
on it. Like that's how I
Mhm.
was trained. You
That's
get
how we
on it,
roll.
you do
Boots
it
to the
right away.
ground, baby.
Huh?
Boots to the ground, baby.
That's right. There's no
There you
procrastination.
go. Yeah.
So, but this has been such a blessing. Now, Robert, I would like you to also tell the audience the movies that you're going to be currently doing or that you're working on right now. How can people be a blessing to be involved, to give their time, to come and do what they need to do, acting or whatever it is, on the set, helping on set, or whatever you are in need of.
And again, on our website, MWM
Mhm.
Cornerstone, there's a contact page. You can contact us and write me any kind of email. You can donate money. There's always money is a big thing. I'm not afraid to say it now. It
Mhm.
used to be like it's like this almost forbidden thing to talk about, but
Right. No,
money
we're all in the same boat. We need money.
yeah, you need
Right.
money to do this. That's the main thing. And if you have talent, art, acting, music, experience, any kind of availability. Okay, we are doing God willing, we are doing two films this year.
Mhm.
One is called Stealing Broomtails. It's a
Yes.
contemporary Western, but it's not really a Western. It's just a horse movie, and we're filming it right here in upstate New York. It's all horse country here.
Mhm.
And the story is true. Uh, there are, well, in 2019 alone, there was 55,000 horses stolen in America alone, smuggled either into Mexico or Canada, and slaughtered and canned for the horse meat and sold to Asian countries, European countries, other countries around
Wow.
the world. And it's become an annual $100 million black market industry. And they're stealing horses. And nobody seems to really know a lot about this. So I wrote a story
Wow.
about that. It's called Stealing Broomtails. Broomtails is a term that they used to use in the Wyoming area for horses, broomtail. And in that story, I fictionalized it by creating some kids that come from a couple of bad parenting situations
Mhm.
in their family, and those parenting problems become addressed in the movie. And through the kids' mischief of wanting to rescue these horses because they are the ones that find out some information, they discover the bad guys and nobody believes them. So, in their mischief, they lead the authorities to capture the bad guys. So basically, the one-liner is modern day horse theft and kids come to the rescue, but their families get saved. So, I put the hand of God in there. I made up the story, but it's based on true stuff. The family problems are divorce, drugs
Mhm.
and alcohol, multiple sexual partners, that kind of thing.
Right, right.
Modern day stuff, but the horse theft is real in our society right now today. 55,000 horses stolen. And then the other one is she's not an exception. That's my daughter's rape story and church politics, getting kicked out of church, and this little baby being created as a
Mhm.
result.
Little cute baby.
Yeah, she's 3.5 years old now. And then there's the life and death of Adam Iron Judson, about a true story about America's first foreign missionary. It's a period piece back in 1802 when America just got through becoming its own independent country.
Mhm.
And this guy formed the United States Board of Missionaries and carried the gospel to India and then to Burma and
Mhm.
brought the gospel to the Burmese people, which they'd never heard the word of Christ ever. And to this day, there are over 7 million Christians in Burma because of one man's work. He, yeah, he translated the Bible from Latin, Greek, Hebrew, and English into Burmese, created the Burmese English Burmese
Yeah.
dictionary, and suffered a lot. He was imprisoned for his faith by the Emperor of Burma
Mhm.
and released and created the peace treaty with Britain and Burma. And he lost his first two wives and six children to yellow fever and malaria. And he could have lived the American royalty lifestyle back in that day, but
Right.
he chose to live in a hut in Burma for 38 years and do the work of God. And he died at sea coming back to America. He
Right.
never moved back to America.
Where are you filming this? That one.
We've been to Burma. We were going to film a lot of it in Burma and probably will, but a lot of it because Burma's kind of a dangerous place right now.
Yeah.
And so to bring an American film crew to Burma would be probably not a very good idea. But in southern Louisiana, it looks like Burma, Costa Rica, Mexico. We're picking locations. It's going to be a high budget movie.
Right.
That's why we're not doing it first. But
Yes.
hopefully, it will be our fourth film, which will be 3 films from
Right.
now.
Right.
So, but these
Wow.
are on our website. You can read all about them. People can contact me from our website again and
Um,
donate money and ask any questions they want. How can they get involved? What can they offer? Let us know who you are. What do you want to do?
right.
What kind of ideas do you have? And of course, we want to work with foster kids
Yes.
and keep kids out of prison, and things like that. We want to share the word of pro-choice, freedom,
Hmm.
life. I mean, I get it always mixed up. Uh,
Right.
when they say I'm pro-choice, well, we try to say that too. We choose not to have an abortion.
That's right. Yes.
Right.
We choose to let the baby live. We
Yeah.
choose to follow God's will.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen to that, brother. Wow.
So
What an
go to our website and you'll connect to all that stuff.
yes. And I did put that in there a couple times, the www.mwmcornerstone.com in order to reach out to Robert if you are interested in being a blessing to him or being a part of his films. Please contact him, okay? And we are believing basically for kingdom finances to come in. We're believing because you know why? These are movies, Robert, that God is giving to you. These are coming from heaven. This is what I believe. I
Yeah.
believe things are first inspired in the kingdom. Okay. They manifest first in the kingdom and then they manifest on earth. And so, as these things are manifesting on the earth, because we are in the end times and we are so close to the coming of the Lord, I truly believe that God, again, He is bursting forth open the floodgates of heaven for those whom He have called to be the forerunners at the front line, the soldiers for Christ, the ambassadors for Christ, and that He is giving us favor. We are in the times, I believe, of Esther, where the favor of God is upon us. And whatever we do, wherever we go, whatever we are inquiring of, whatever we need, God is literally giving us favor as we stand before the King. And who is the King? Jesus is our King, but the kings that the Lord may send us to, those are the ones who do have the funds for us to be able to go forth and make these inspirational movies to reach the lost and the hurting.
And we can also be the production company that produces your films too.
Yeah,
You
hey,
know, we can all
whatever
partner.
God wants, hey, I am so open. You know what? I had a dream about Robert Downey Jr. I've had several dreams
Yeah,
about
you
him.
told me.
Yeah. So, but in one of the dreams, I was literally praying for him. And so I truly believe that there is connection that is coming, and how whoever God wants to use, yes, I would be so honored for you to help Vanessa and I with this script, because you know what? I'm learning a lot. I've been learning a lot through Vanessa. I've been learning a lot through David being on the set. Go figure, playing a cop on the set.
Well, we got a whole film crew, so we can do everything.
Yeah.
We get the money, we can host everything, and
Yes.
be your production company.
Yes. And I'm so honored that you would even. I could just cry right now.
And we wanted her to be back in New York with us again.
I'll be back there soon. I got friends. I'll be back there soon. I was thinking about coming next month. We'll see.
Well, we still have an empty room in our house here, so
major talking points, brother.
And I'd love to go with you, girl.
Come visit. We have a guest bedroom, so
yeah, I think
our house is a really big old farmhouse.
Yes, love it.
1836. We don't own it; we rent it, but we have a good lease, and it's our production headquarters. It's our production office and where we live, both.
Awesome.
So it's really neat, and we're surrounded by 600 acres of farmland.
Oh my gosh!
All horse country, 1 hour out of New York.
And see, I'm a horse rider, so if I come visit you, I'm gonna want to ride some horses.
Oh, there you go. Our stables that we're working at's right down the road from here.
Love it. Awesome. Oh my gosh. We gotta go, Vanessa.
Yes, we got it.
Addie and I went riding yesterday. She's already been riding twice now.
Wow.
Love it.
Yeah.
Taking New York trip.
The horse ranch in Wyoming. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, definitely. We're an hour and 20 minutes outside New York City.
Okay.
So get there, and the train is right. I got a car, but the train station's just 10 minutes away.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I'm planning on doing that. I mean, if I'm invited to come, I'm planning on doing it. I'm believing God that He is going to shift me, because that's what I've been feeling, that He's going to be shifting me from the security / supervisor. My heart is to be able to do law enforcement part-time. I love my chief David Belvery. Absolutely love him. What a mighty man of God he is. Very. Are
you a police officer? I didn't know that. Are you a police officer?
I don't say too much like online, because I'm just kind of private with that.
Okay, never mind.
Yes, I'll just say 20 years ago, I was a police officer, and then most recently, and then some things happened. But I'm looking to do part-time with my chief of police, and I'm just kind of waiting for that. But I think it would be awesome to even have him playing a part or somewhere, because he is also ex-military. He's a strong man of God. I look up to him so much, and I think you would love him, Robert. You would really love him. But anyway, I don't want to drag this out any further. We have been on for a good hour, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
We're going to bring your daughter on and have her come and talk and give her testimony again sometime in March. So you guys be looking out for that. Thank you so much for joining. We are End Time Kingdom Ambassadors, and we hope that you enjoyed this program. Please reach out to Robert. If you have questions about his movie making, his company, whatever it is, if you want to be a blessing to him, reach out to him at www.mwmcornerstone.com. And we thank you again for joining us, and we will see you next time. And you guys hold on.
God bless you.
We got some things to show you on the backstage, Robert. Don't go anywhere. God bless you guys, and see you next time. Shalom, shalom.
God bless everybody.
Bye-bye.
God bless.